HNoMS Tyr was a Gor-class Rendel gunboat built for the Royal Norwegian Navy at Karljohansverns Verft Naval Yard in Horten. She was laid down in 1884 and launched in 1887 with build number 67. Tyr was one of a class of 2 gunboats, the other ship in her class being HNoMS Gor.Gor and Tyr can be seen as improved Vale-class gunboats, of 290 tons instead of the 250 tons standard for that class. Captured during the German invasion of Norway, she was pressed into service in an attempt to mine Sogne Fjord. After attacks by Norwegian aircraft and ships, she took no further part in the conflict. After the war she was returned briefly to the Royal Norwegian Navy, then entered civilian service in a number of roles over the years. Characteristics: the main gun of the ship was 7.8 meters long, or about a quarter of the length of the whole vessel. In addition, she was armed with 3 revolving guns for closer ranges. Shortly before the First World War, Tyr was rebuilt as a mine layer. During this rebuild, the heavy gun was replaced with a more modern 12 cm breech loader, and one of the 37 mm guns was replaced with a more potent 76 mm gun. After the heavy gun and ammunition were removed, she could carry 55 mines. By 1940, 2 Madsen machine guns had been added for anti-aircraft purposes. Service: German invasion of Norway. Mining the Bergen approaches. On the 9th of April 1940, the day of the German invasion of Norway, the commander of Leroy Guard District, Captain F. Ulstrup, received a message informing him that German warships had forced their way past the small Leroy fort on the way towards Bergen. Captain Ulstrup immediately boarded Tyr and sailed out to mine the Leroy-Osen approaches to the southwestern Norwegian city. At 0130 hours, the Norwegian mine layer began mining the stretch of water between Leroy Island and Sotra, putting out 7 mines right before the German invasion flotilla arrived at Leroy-Osen. Making good her escape, Tyr placed another 16 mines in the Vatle approaches north of Bergen. Due to a built-in time delay, the Leroy-Osen mines were not active when the German warships passed over them. However, by the time the supply fleet of the German forces in the Bergen area started coming into Leroy-Osen late in the evening, the mines were ready. The first ship to hit the mines was the 4,297-ton supply ship Sao Paulo, which sank with a great loss of both lives and material at 2,300 hours. The 9th of April. As the mine barrier had now been discovered, the Kriegsmarine needed to sweep the Leroy-Osen but had no dedicated minesweepers in the area. In an improvised reaction to the mines, the invaders sent out the naval trawlers Schiff 9 and Kremen, together with 2 launches from the depot ship Karl Peters. The improvised minesweeper force entered the mine barrier in the evening of the 10th of April and began clearing the mines. At 1925 hours, Schiff 9 struck a mine and went down in between 1 and 2 minutes. At 19.30 hours, as Kremen tried to rescue survivors, she too blew up together with one of the 2 launches. Later on the 27th of April, the 8,500-ton German merchant ship Liege was sunk by one of the mines. The 4,601-ton German steamer Johann Wessels was damaged by one of the mines on the 5th of May 1940. 3 days later, on the 8th of May 1940, the 1,151-ton German-controlled Danish steamer Gerda hit a mine and sank. All in all, the Germans lost 3 supply ships, 2 naval trawlers and a launch sunk by mines laid by Tyr, guarding the southern sea lane. After laying her mines, Tyr resumed guarding the southern sea lane to Bergen and soon met up with German naval forces. Off the island of Skorpo she had a clash with an E-boat, neither vessel being hit. Tyr then withdrew behind the cover of Forstroner Island, but was chased down by a further 3 German E-boats. After a brief fight, Tyr drove the enemy ships off, damaging one of the German vessels severely with a 37mm shell. Norwegian campaign. To the Hardangerfjord, change of command. Later in the Norwegian campaign, on the 16th of April, Tyr moved to Askadel in White-Eye Hardangerfjord, where her captain became the commander of the newly created Hardangerfjord Naval District. The second-in-command, Sub-Lieutenant K. Sandnes, took over the mine layer. While in the Hardangerfjord she took part in the Battle of Askadel in the early hours of the 20th of April. Battle of Askadel. From her anchorage south of Askadel, Tyr first damaged an E-boat and then, with her 12 cm main gun, put a large hole below the waterline of the armed trawler ship 18, forcing her to be beached to avoid sinking. At 5:30 a.m., the battle turned against the Norwegians as another trawler, Ship 221, landed more troops at Trones, which advanced on Askadel from a new direction. All the while during the battle, Tyr was providing naval gunfire support from her position in the Storsund midway between Askadel and Herøysund, bombarding the Germans with high explosive shells. Even though she came under heavy machine gun fire from German troops, Tyr helped the Norwegian land forces hold the ground until taken by surprise by the sudden arrival of the German artillery training ship Brems. Fire from the larger enemy ship forced Tyr to back out the fight and go to the docks in Askadel. After a short while at anchor, Tyr was ordered back into the fight to help the torpedo boat Stug that was fighting Brems. Once Tyr returned to the battle, she again gained the attention of the German warship and was forced to take cover in a small bay at Skorpo. As Sub-Lieutenant Sandnes now considered the battle as hopeless, he ordered his crew ashore to rest, also sending small arms and ammunition on land. Sandnes started preparations to scuttle his ship with explosives, but before he could carry out his intentions, 2 E-boats entered the bay and boarded Tyr. Before long, Ship 221 arrived and took Tyr in tow. By afternoon, Tyr was on her way back to Bergen with a German crew. German service Sognefjord with Ulla. In German hands, Tyr was first used together with fellow captured Norwegian mine layer Ulla in a plan by Admiral Otto von Schrade to mine the entrance to the Sognefjord on the 30th of April. Together the two ships could carry 80 mines and quite effectively block in the Norwegian naval forces in the country's longest fjord. However, the Norwegian forces in the fjord had a very effective system of lookouts and guard ships. Before the two mine layers even had entered Sognefjord, they were attacked by 2 of the Royal Norwegian Navy Air Service's MF.11 biplane patrol aircraft. The seaplanes dropped 9 bombs at the 2 mine layers, failing to damage either of the ships but wounding 3 sailors on Ulla with shrapnel. Having escaped damage in this attack, the mine layers continued north and started laying mines at the entrance to the Sognefjord. In the early hours of the 1st of May, the Norwegians threw another seaplane attack against their German mining operation. A single Norwegian Heinkel He-115 made 2 dive-bombing attacks on Tyr and Ulla, dropping 1 250 kg bomb and 4 50 kg bombs on the fiercely resisting ships. None of the bombs were direct hits, but one near-miss damaged the side of Ulla, causing sea water to flood into her. Ulla had to be beached on Losnoy Island and thereafter scuttled by the only slightly damaged Tyr. Ambusher. After scuttling Ulla, Tyr abandoned her mining mission and retreated southwards to Bergen. Bergen, carrying the crew of Ulla with her. Norwegian scouts were however still following her. Before the mine layer got back to base, she was ambushed in the Vale-class narrows between Hisse and the mainland by the crew of a Norwegian guard boat that had been stalking her since leaving the Sogne fjord. A crew had taken up positions on both sides of the narrows and opened a harrowing fire on the mine layer as she passed through. As Tyr was shot up with intense machine gun fire, the German crew replied with her 12 cm main gun and automatic weapons without hitting any in the ambush force. The firefight continued until Tyr had passed through the narrows and got out of range of the Norwegians' light weaponry, making it back to Bergen. Tyr saw no further service during the Norwegian campaign. After the Vale-class ambush, Tyr took no further part in the Norwegian campaign. What the Germans used the mine layer for after that is unknown. Post-war, after the Second World War, Tyr was returned to the Royal Norwegian Navy and sold into civilian service. Her first rebuild was in 1946 when she converted to a heavy-lift steamship. In 1949 she was sold to B.R. Wilhelmsen and rebuilt as a car ferry, being renamed Bjorn West in 1951 and was used as such by different companies for many years. In May 1986 she was rebuilt at Karmøy, this time as a heavy transport ship. Later she was sold to a salmon farm company and as of 2006 was still in existence as a floating storage vessel. Bibliography. Abelson, Frank. Norwegian Naval Ships 1939–1945. Oslo, Semen Amp, Stenison as. ISBN 82-7046-0508. Berg, Ole F. Ishaugard Par Havet. Marinens Krig 8. April 1942 8. May 1945. Oslo, Marinens Krigsveteranforening. ISBN 82-9935452-8. Datland, John. Den Longiveren. J. Datland. Haug, Andreas. Campine Orge 1940. 1. Sandefjord, Krigshistorisk Forlag. ISBN 82-9933690-2.